The first real crack didn't come with a fight or silence or even a lie. It came in the form of a paper coffee cup left on the kitchen counter. Not mine. Not hers. A brand from a cafe neither of us had ever been to. Half drunk. Cold. Sitting next to a spoon sticky with some syrup she never used. I stared at it longer than I should have, like maybe it would confess something. It didn't. Just sat there like a stranger in my house. I left for Dallas that night for a 4-day contract job consulting on a system upgrade for a finance firm I couldn't care less about. We weren't big on goodbyes anymore. Just a distracted drive safe from the hallway while she scrolled through her phone. Her tone didn't hit me until later. Flat. Automatic. The kind of goodbye you give to someone you don't expect or care to see again. The trip was uneventful in that fake kind of way where nothing goes wrong but everything feels off. No check-ins from her. I didn't reach out either. Something about the silence between us had grown too large to step over. I came back a day early. Didn't tell her. There was this nagging itch, a low-level hum in my gut that wouldn't shut up. So I wrapped the job early, lied to my client about a family emergency, and caught the first flight home. Landed past midnight. Took a cab. Didn't fall asleep once. The driver didn't talk. I was grateful. I wasn't in the mood to pretend everything was fine. What happened next split my life in two. Not figuratively. Not emotionally. I mean literally everything before that moment became one life and everything after something else entirely. My key didn't work. I stood there like an idiot, luggage beside me, punching in the keypad code like maybe I forgot how fingers worked. The red light blinked again and again. I tried the physical key. Same result. I stood back. Looked up at the windows. Lights were on. I rang the doorbell once. Nothing. Again. Then I knocked. Hard. My knuckles smarted. I was just about to call her phone when the door opened. And there she was. Wearing a black silk robe I didn't recognize. Hair done. Mascara on. Lipstick. Lipstick at 1 a.m. Her expression? Utterly unbothered. Not surprised. Not shocked. Not even annoyed. Just blank. She looked at me like I was a neighbor's cousin she'd seen once at a barbecue 3 years ago. I changed the locks, she said. What? I blinked. I didn't think you'd be back tonight. She said it the way someone might mention a burnt casserole. Like it was mildly inconvenient. My voice was quiet when I finally found it. Why? And then she just shrugged. Because I've found someone better. No drama. No yelling. No crying. Just that. Someone better. Those 2 words peeled the skin off my chest. Not because they hurt. Not yet. But because they were delivered like a receipt. Like a line she'd rehearsed. I looked past her. A man was sitting on the couch. Shirtless. Drinking from one of my glasses. His feet were on the table I built in my garage the first year we moved in. He didn't say anything. Didn't flinch. Just stared at me like I was the UPS guy delivering something late. I want you to leave, she said, more bored than angry. And then she closed the door. But not all the way. She left it slightly open, like an insult. Like punctuation. I stood there. 5 seconds. 10. 20. Then I laughed. I didn't mean to. It came out of me like a cough. Because the situation was too absurd for silence. Because in some twisted part of my brain, I thought this can't be real. But it was. I picked up my bag, turned around, walked back to the street. I didn't have a plan. I didn't call anyone. I just started walking. It was a quiet street, lined with trees we picked for their autumn colors. The same ones we argued about for weeks. Too yellow. Too orange. Too tall. Too short. I suddenly hated every single leaf. I ended up at a 24-hour diner. Sat down in a booth, still in my travel clothes, not even hungry. I stared at the menu like I could read my way into a different life. And that's when my phone buzzed. A message. From her. Just one sentence. You should have told me you were coming back early. Like I was the one out of line. Like I had messed up her evening. The waitress asked me if I wanted coffee. I said no. My hands were shaking. Not from fear. Not from heartbreak. But from something sharp building inside me. Something ancient. Not rage. Not grief. Something older. Colder. A decision was forming. One I didn't understand yet. But I would. Soon, the message sat on my screen like a slap. You should have told me you were coming back early. I stared at it, rereading the words, trying to figure out if I was missing something. A joke, a deeper meaning, some kind of twist that would turn this into a misunderstanding, a bizarre prank, a breakdown of reality that would make sense if I just looked at it from the right angle. But there was no joke. She had meant it. She was genuinely irritated that I had disrupted her night with another man in our house, on our couch, drinking from my glass. I didn't reply. Not because I didn't have anything to say. On the contrary. My thoughts were screaming, boiling, clawing for expression. But I knew the moment I responded, the moment I gave in to that impulse, she'd win. She'd twist it. Make it about my temper. My unpredictability. My drama. She was good at that. She always had been. I spent the rest of the night in the diner. Ordered coffee eventually. Just something to hold in my hands. At around 4 a.m. I found a motel a few blocks down and crashed, not because I was tired but because I couldn't sit in that booth one more second without losing what was left of my control. The next morning I went back to the house. Not to beg. Not to talk. To see. She had parked her car on the street instead of the driveway, something she never did. And his car was there too. A red muscle car, all shine and ego. I stood on the sidewalk for 5 minutes watching the curtains. One of them moved. I knew they were watching me back. I didn't ring the bell this time. I left and drove straight to my friend Caleb's place. He lived 20 minutes away. An old college buddy, the kind of guy who offered help before you asked. When he opened the door and saw me standing there with my suitcase, he didn't say a word. Just stepped aside and let me in. I told him everything. Every stupid detail. The silence, the coffee cup, the locks, the robe, the man, the message. He didn't interrupt once. Just nodded slowly like he was keeping himself from reacting too soon. When I finished, he said something that stuck. She didn't just plan this. She enjoyed it. And he was right. The more I looked back, the more signs appeared. Like rot under wallpaper. Conversations where she'd smirk for no reason. Nights she said she was working late but came home freshly showered. How she had started locking her phone screen so quickly it felt rehearsed. It wasn't negligence. It was choreography. She wanted me to find out this way. Humiliated. Shut out. Dismantled in one clean move. But that's not what she got. Because I wasn't going to play my part. The part where I spiral, beg, shout, accuse. I was going to be silent. Focused. I was going to become the problem she didn't plan for. The first thing I did was freeze the joint account. She noticed fast. Within an hour I got another message. Real mature. No greeting. No context. Just those 2 words like a verdict. I ignored it. Then came the calls. Not from her. From mutual friends. Some of them confused. Some pretending to be confused. One of them, Rachel, her old roommate from before we got married, called me and opened with, "She told me you just left her." I laughed out loud. "She told you what?" Rachel hesitated. "That you walked out. That you disappeared." That's when it hit me. She was rewriting the narrative. Already. Spinning the story like a PR campaign. I was the unreliable husband. The emotionally distant guy who abandoned her. Who forced her into someone else's arms. I could feel it happening like a storm front building above my head. And I wasn't going to stop it. Not yet. Because storms reveal the foundations of everything they hit. I told Rachel, ask her who changed the locks. Then I hung up. That night, I wrote down a list. Not of revenge. Not of plans. But of facts. Cold, simple truths. Everything she touched was now infected by lies. So I made a new rule for myself: no emotions. No outbursts. Just consequences. She had no idea what she'd started. And I hadn't even begun. It took her 2 days to show up. I was in Caleb's garage helping him sand an old dresser he'd been too lazy to touch since 2021. It wasn't about the dresser. I needed noise. Distraction. Motion. Something to pour my hands into while my head kept replaying that doorway moment like a film stuck on loop. Her car pulled into the driveway without warning. No text. No call. Just rolled up like she was arriving at a yoga class she'd forgotten about. She stepped out dressed in a crisp white blouse and black jeans. Full face of makeup again. Her version of war paint. The look she wore when she wanted to control a conversation. I didn't stop sanding. Didn't look up. She said my name once, soft. Like the first crack in an ice lake. I said nothing. Then she sighed. Stepped closer. "You're not even going to talk to me?" I looked at her. Just long enough to let the silence sit heavy. Then I went back to sanding. She scoffed, frustrated. You're being childish. Still sanding. That's when she snapped. Voice raised. You can't just disappear. You don't get to act like I'm the villain. You left. You ghosted me. You froze our account, you shut me out, and now I'm supposed to just, what? Chase you around like I'm the one who did something wrong. I finally stopped. Set the sandpaper down. Turned to face her. You changed the locks while I was gone. You brought a man into my house. You looked me in the face and said you found someone better. Now you want a conversation. She didn't blink. Just stared. It's not that simple. I stepped closer. Then simplify it. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Then finally, you weren't present for a long time. You made it easy. You gave up before I did. There it was. The shift. The moment where blame is quietly repackaged and handed back like a souvenir. I nodded. So that's the story now. It's not a story. It's my truth. She said it so seriously, like she was reciting from a therapy manual. Could have laughed. I didn't. Instead, I asked, is he living there now? She hesitated, which told me everything. For now, she said. Good. I said. Then it's your house. You can keep it. That threw her. What do you mean? I'm not coming back. You're just what? Giving up everything? I looked her dead in the eye. You already did. She flinched. The smallest, most satisfying movement. Then the anger came. So what, you're punishing me? Going to make me look like the crazy one? Is that your plan? I turned my back on her. Picked up the sandpaper again. You already are the crazy one. I'm just giving you the stage. She stood there for a beat, maybe waiting for me to break, to crack, to scream or throw something or beg. But I wasn't the man she remembered. I was the one she made. She left without another word. Slammed the car door. Tires barked as she pulled out. When the dust settled, Caleb came out with 2 beers. Didn't say a thing. Just handed me one. We sat in silence for a long time. Then he said, she didn't expect you to be this calm. And he was right. That's what was going to ruin her. Not the shouting. Not the drama. The quiet. The consequences. 3 days later, her sister called me. I hadn't spoken to Haley in months, maybe a year. Not because anything was wrong between us, but because Jenna had slowly, surgically removed anyone from my life who had the potential to see her clearly. And Haley, God bless her, saw right through the performance. She sounded tired. Not sad. Not confused. Just worn. She told Mom you cheated. I didn't even blink. Of course she did. She's painting this whole thing like you abandoned her emotionally, started staying out late, got secretive. Now suddenly you're the one who broke her heart. She left the door open, I said. Haley paused. What? That night? When she told me she found someone better. She didn't slam the door. She closed it almost all the way, but not fully. Like she wanted me to watch. Like she needed me to feel it. The message wasn't just that she was gone. The message was that she wanted me to see it. Haley was quiet for a second. Then very softly, she's not well, you know. No, I replied. She's just exactly who she is when no one's left to impress. I didn't want to play therapist. I wasn't going to sit around building trauma timelines to excuse what she did. She was deliberate. She was clean about it. Efficient. This wasn't a mistake. It was a blueprint. Haley asked if I needed anything. I said no. I appreciated her call. We hung up. I didn't hear from Jenna for a week. Then she showed up again. Not alone this time. She brought him. He stayed in the car like a bodyguard or like a coward, depending on how you interpret it. She walked up to the door of Caleb's place like she had business. Knocked. Waited. I let her knock again. When I opened the door, I didn't step aside. She looked at me like she was trying to access a memory. Like I was becoming someone she couldn't quite predict anymore. You need to stop freezing accounts, she said. I tilted my head. Accounts? I can't use the credit card. That wasn't just yours, you know? Yes, I said. It was. You never paid into it. I did. That makes it mine. She laughed once, sharp. You think you're going to win some moral high ground by acting like you're above this? I'm not above anything, I said. But I'm done being below it. She rolled her eyes, like I was boring her. You've got what you want, right? You're out. You're free. Go have your little revenge arc. I smiled. But not the kind that says I'm okay. The kind that says I'm watching everything fall exactly where I want it to. This isn't revenge, I said. This is a detox. Then she dropped the real reason she came. I want the car. Our car. No. The one in my name. I blinked. The one I paid for. Yes, but the title, remember? You put it in my name to get the insurance discount. Of course I remembered. Of course I did. I stepped out onto the porch. Just one step closer to her. She didn't flinch, but she shifted. Weight on her back foot. Like she wasn't sure what this new version of me would do. You're right, I said. It's in your name. Her eyes lit up just a little. And if you'd asked 2 weeks ago, I continued, I might have handed you the keys with a full tank. But now, I leaned in. Now I want you to work for it. Paperwork. Court dates. Lawyers. You want it, you fight for it. And I will fight you every inch. She blinked fast. Then turned around and walked off. Fast. Didn't look back. Didn't say goodbye. And he didn't get out of the car. Just sat there, staring at his steering wheel. Like maybe he was wondering what exactly he'd inherited. Back inside, I sat down and wrote an email to my lawyer. Subject line, time to move. This wasn't about punishing her. It was about making sure she finally had to answer for something in her life. No more stage lights. No more rehearsed monologues. Just raw, uncomfortable truth. The kind that strips everything down to what it really is. And we were just getting started. The email to my lawyer went out at 6:14 a.m. By 7:02, I had a reply. His name was Randall Keene. Not the cheapest, not the friendliest, but efficient. No hand-holding. That's exactly what I wanted. I wasn't looking to be consoled. I wanted results. Randall was the kind of guy who filed before you even finished the sentence. First step, he said, we lock her out of what's left. Then we file. Then we dig. Simple. Cold. Clinical. A strange kind of comfort in that. But while he was handling the legal side, I was still dealing with the social wildfire she'd lit. It started in the form of texts from numbers I hadn't saved. Friends of hers. Coworkers. A cousin. Her trainer of all people. Each one of them reaching out with the same sick rhythm, fake concern dressed in polite wording, trying to fish for my side of the story while pretending to be neutral. I ignored most of them. But one got under my skin. A message from her coworker Claire, who I'd met maybe 4 times at firm parties. She wrote, I'm so sorry you and Elle are going through this. She's devastated. I hope you're okay, truly. She never wanted it to get messy. She never wanted it to get messy. That phrase stayed with me like a splinter. Because it confirmed something I hadn't said out loud yet. This wasn't just betrayal, it was calculated. Orchestrated with exits and alibis. She didn't want honesty. She wanted a clean escape. Her goal wasn't a new relationship. It was a replacement storyline. She didn't just want to be free, she wanted to be admired for how gracefully she escaped a bad marriage. Except I didn't let her keep it clean. I was the stain. And the deeper I looked, the more I found. She hadn't met him recently. That was the first real bombshell. Caleb's girlfriend, Morgan, worked at the same gym where Jenna used to go on Wednesdays. She stopped going months ago, but Morgan remembered her. Not because of Jenna. Because of him. He used to wait outside the juice bar for her. Every week. Like clockwork. Sometimes with flowers. Sometimes with nothing but this smug energy like he'd already won. Morgan told Caleb. Caleb told me. They'd been seeing each other for at least 6 months. Maybe longer. I sat with that. Not in rage. Not in shock. But in focus. Because it meant she had been building this double life while coming home to me every night, sitting across from me at the dinner table, smiling during birthdays, asking about work. She wasn't slipping. She was multitasking. Then, just when I thought she'd finally gone quiet, I got a letter. Yes. An actual letter. Folded neatly in a soft pink envelope with no return address. It was her handwriting. 5 pages. A full performance. She didn't say sorry. Not once. Instead, she framed the entire thing as her personal awakening. How she had to find herself, how she didn't recognize the person she was becoming, and how letting go was the kindest thing she could do for both of us. She ended it with, "I'll always love the version of us that existed before we stopped being real." Before we stopped being real? No ownership. No admission. Just more rehearsed poetry. I didn't write back. Instead, I scanned the letter, saved a copy, and handed it to Randall. He read it once. Nodded. She's trying to build a foundation for emotional justification. If this hits court, she'll argue mental distress. Maybe even coercion. Common tactic. So what do we do? I asked. He tapped the paper once. We build a better story. I was already ahead of him. I'd started going through old emails, bank statements, chat logs, finding every inconsistency. Every moment she said she was here but was actually there. Every small proof that her narrative was a fiction. I wasn't doing it for revenge. I was doing it for clarity. If I was going to burn what we had to the ground, I needed to know exactly what I was letting turn to ash. And then I found the receipt. 2 months ago. A hotel downtown. One night. Room service for 2. Champagne. Chocolate. Charged to the joint account. She had used my money to cheat on me in a hotel room and eat strawberries dipped in lies. It should have hurt. But it didn't. Not anymore. What it did was sharpen me. I sent the receipt to Randall. Then I poured myself a drink. Sat down. And started writing my own letter. Not to her. To me. Because if she was going to tell a story, I was going to write the one she didn't get to control. The letter to myself started off like a vent. But it didn't stay that way. It turned into a record. A confession. A mirror I hadn't looked into in a long time. Because somewhere deep inside me, long before the locks, the robe, the message, the silence, I had known. Not that she was cheating. Not the exact details. But I knew something essential had shifted. I had let it. And worse, I had enabled it. I wrote things I hadn't said out loud, even to Caleb. Like the time 6 months ago when she came home late, hair damp, perfume stronger than usual, and I asked how her dinner with the girls went. She smiled too quickly, said, "Fun," and changed the subject. I let it go, not because I trusted her, but because I didn't want to find the thread that would unravel everything. I remembered birthdays where she'd forget the gift until the night before and just Venmo me cash with a dumb joke. I remembered how she'd roll her eyes when I tried to talk about my work wins, like I was boring her. I remembered how she started dressing differently for the grocery store than she did for date night. High heels to buy produce, sweatpants for dinner with me. I remembered the time I found a voicemail on her phone from someone saved as J. Dry Cleaner. The message said, "Can't stop thinking about last night. Call me soon." I told myself it was a wrong number. I didn't even ask her about it. That's what I realized writing that letter. I had been complicit in my own humiliation. Passive. Disengaged. Quiet. A part of me believed that if I didn't push, I wouldn't lose her. But I didn't lose her because I pushed. I lost her because I let her walk all over me for so long she forgot I had a spine. But now she was being reintroduced. I kept the letter. Not for court. For memory. For truth. Because I never wanted to forget the cost of silence again. The next day, Randall filed the initial motion. The moment it hit her inbox, she messaged me. "So you're really doing this?" I stared at the message. That tone. Like I was the dramatic one now. Like I was ruining what she so graciously destroyed first. I didn't reply. Then she sent another. "Thought we could be civil." Civil, the word sat in my chest like a brick. This was the woman who locked me out of my own house and let another man drink from my glass. The woman who used my money to sleep in hotels with someone else. The woman who rewrote the ending of our story and handed it to our friends like gospel. And now she wanted civil. I didn't block her. But I didn't engage either. Instead, I focused on a new part of the plan, the friends. Because mutual circles were shifting. Whispers were turning into positions. Everyone wanted to know where the truth was going to land before they picked sides. So I gave them nothing. I didn't vent. Didn't rant. Didn't start telling stories. But I started showing receipts. Subtly. Strategically. One dinner with an old friend and a few casual drops of fact. Yeah, the hotel charge from March surprised me too. Or, funny how she said I left her. I was at a conference, came home a day early. Locks changed. Man on the couch. You tell me. I didn't try to control the narrative. I just placed landmines of truth and let people step where they would. Some disappeared. Some apologized. One, Mike, who had known both of us since college, texted, "Man, I honestly didn't think she'd do you like that." I texted back, "She didn't. I just finally watched her do it." But the real pivot came with the photos. Not mine. Theirs. Someone sent me screenshots. No name. No message. Just images. Them, Jenna and her replacement at the beach. At brunch. At a hotel bar. Taken by someone clearly nearby. Not staged. Not posed. Natural. Familiar. But not recent. Timestamps proved it. Some dated back almost a year. She'd been gone a long time before she left. That moment broke something in me, but not in the way you'd expect. It broke the last little string holding me to any illusion of who she was. There was no mourning after that. No grief. Only clarity. And clarity is a dangerous thing when it lands in the hands of someone patient. Because now I wasn't reacting. I was building. And what I was building, she would never see coming. The thing about liars is they don't panic when you expose them, they panic when they realize they're no longer the one telling the story. And that's exactly what started happening to her. Not all at once. Not with fireworks. But in slow, calculated shifts. It started with Mark, a mutual friend of ours from her side. The kind of guy who always played neutral. A diplomat in friend group politics. I hadn't spoken to him since everything went down. Then, out of nowhere, I got a message, "Hey, I don't know what's true, but she's saying some wild things about you. Can we talk?" I didn't dodge it. We met for coffee. Public place. No drama. I showed up early, sat outside, sun low and cold across the pavement. Mark came 10 minutes late, looking uncomfortable, like he wasn't sure if he should even be there. "She's saying you were emotionally distant. Controlling. That you made her feel invisible." I nodded. "I bet she is." He hesitated. "She said you went through her stuff. Like, obsessively." I raised an eyebrow. "Before or after I found a half-naked guy in my house drinking from my whiskey cabinet?" He flinched. I pulled out my phone. Scrolled to the hotel receipt. The screenshots. The text logs I'd pulled from the cloud backup before she shut off the shared data access. I turned the screen toward him. No words. Mark read. Quiet. Didn't ask for more. Just nodded. "You know," he said after a long silence, "she told me you just walked out." "I did," I replied. "Right after she told me she found someone better." He looked away. Swallowed hard. That conversation didn't go anywhere dramatic. He didn't cry or apologize or pick a side. But something in his posture changed. That subtle shift that told me the story had fractured, and once it fractures, it spreads like a fault line under everyone still standing on it. I got 2 more texts that week from others in her orbit. Quiet acknowledgments. "Didn't know it went down like that. Sorry. I should have asked sooner." I didn't need loyalty. I needed silence. And I was getting it. But she wasn't. Because while I kept quiet, she started spinning out. The messages started changing tone. At first, she was cold. Dismissive. Then irritated. Accusatory. Then she went quiet for 3 days, and on the 4th, I got a text that read, "I don't recognize you anymore. You've become cruel." I didn't answer. Because I had. Not cruel like vengeance. Cruel like clarity. Cruel like standing on your own truth and watching someone slip off theirs. Then, out of nowhere, she requested a meeting. In person. Neutral location. I agreed. We met in the back room of a quiet bar near the edge of the city. Not a place either of us frequented. I arrived early. She showed up 10 minutes late, looking different. Tired. No makeup. Hair pulled back. Dressed in soft colors like she was trying to shrink herself down. No robe. No mask. Just her. She sat across from me and said nothing for a while. Then, "You're not the man I left." I tilted my head. "You're right." She nodded slowly. "I didn't expect it to go like this. That makes 2 of us." She licked her lips like she was choosing her next words like bullets. "I thought you'd chase me." I stared at her. "I thought you'd fight." "I am," I said. "Just not for you." That landed. Then she did something I wasn't ready for. She leaned forward, lowered her voice, and whispered, "He's not who I thought he was." I didn't react. Not because it didn't sting, but because I knew it was bait. She was trying to reel me back in. With guilt. With regret. with a hint of vulnerability. I didn't take it. Instead, I said you wanted a clean exit. You locked the door behind you before I even knew the house was on fire. Now you want me to hold the hose? She sat back, wounded. Then, why are you doing this? And I looked her dead in the eye. Because you taught me how. She left shortly after. No goodbye. No answers. Just silence. And this time, I welcomed it. Because silence was finally mine. 2 weeks of silence. No texts. No emails. No mysterious mutual friends trying to play go-between. Nothing. Felt peaceful. Not the peaceful kind that comes from forgiveness or healing. No. This was the kind of peace that comes after fire. After the roof caves in and the last ember dies. When the destruction has done its job, and all that's left is space. But then she showed up again. This time at my office. Not my home, not Caleb's, not some neutral spot. My office. Middle of the day. Middle of the week. My receptionist came to my desk with a weird look and said, "There's a woman asking for you. She says she's your wife." I didn't correct her. I walked out to the lobby, and there she was, standing in the middle of the room like someone who had forgotten why they came. She looked smaller. Like the version of her I used to know had been vacuum-sealed inside this new skin. Not put together. Not confident. Scared. I said nothing. Just walked right past her, opened the side door to the building and gestured. If she wanted to talk, it wouldn't be in my space. She followed. We stood in the alley behind the building, the wind dry and sharp against the walls. The kind of place that wasn't made for apologies. "I need to talk," she said. "Then talk." She looked down at her hands like they had answers. "Then he left." "Of course he did. Last week," she added, waiting for a reaction. "Said I wasn't who he thought I was." I didn't flinch. "You weren't." She nodded once, trying to pull strength from a place that was clearly empty. "I thought I knew what I wanted. I thought you did know." I cut in. "You wanted out. You just didn't want the consequences." She blinked hard. "I didn't expect you to disappear from me so easily." I stepped closer. Not to intimidate. Just so she couldn't pretend this was a dream. "I didn't disappear. You just stopped looking behind you." She looked wrecked. Not because of guilt. Because she realized she was no longer the center of anything. Not of my life. Not of the story. Not even of her own choices. "I miss you," she said. Almost a whisper. I believed her. And I didn't care. Because missing someone doesn't mean you deserve them. She stood there like she thought maybe I'd offer something. A soft line. A sad smile. A step back toward familiarity. Instead, I said, "You know what the worst part was?" She looked up. "It wasn't that you cheated. It wasn't even the locks. It was that you looked me in the eyes and told me I didn't matter. Like everything I built was disposable." Her lip trembled. The smallest fracture. I didn't stop. "You could have ended it. You could have left with dignity. But you needed a villain. You needed me to look like the problem. That's why you rewrote the story. That's why you lied." "I was scared," she said, barely audible. "So you made me the monster." She didn't deny it. That was the moment I realized that she had always been a good actress. But not a good person. And now the show was over. I walked back inside. Left her in the alley with her silence. She didn't follow. Didn't call. Didn't knock. And for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel like I'd lost something. I felt like I had won something I didn't even know I was missing. Control. And I wasn't giving it back. The court papers came in the mail a week later. Stamped, signed, sealed, a full stop on a story she tried to rewrite halfway through. I opened the envelope like it was any other piece of mail. No emotion. No hesitation. Just another thing to file under done. Funny how something so small could end something so massive. The same day, I packed up the last box from Caleb's guest room. He didn't rush me. Never once dropped a hint. Just let me heal at my own speed, in my own corner of the house, without asking too many questions. When I handed him the spare key, he looked at me like he knew exactly what the moment meant. "You okay?" he asked. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just said, "I'm not stuck anymore." That was better than okay. I moved into a quiet apartment across town. Nothing fancy, nothing dramatic. Clean walls, fresh air, no ghosts. Just space I could call mine. Not ours. No echoes of old fights or frozen silences. No furniture chosen to impress or match or avoid argument. I bought mismatched plates. I slept in the middle of the bed. I left the windows open, even when it was cold. Because I could. The phone still buzzed every now and then. From her. Always short messages. I hope you're doing well. I saw your name in a mutual friend's story. You looked happy. Do you ever think about the beginning? I never responded. Not out of pettiness. Out of preservation. She wasn't reaching out because she missed me. She was reaching because she missed who she was when I loved her. But that version of me? He was gone. She didn't just betray a man. She broke the place that love came from. And once that place shuts down, it doesn't reopen for the person who destroyed it. One night, months later, I ran into Rachel, her old roommate, at a bookstore. We caught up like normal people. Civil. Light. Then she said something I hadn't expected. You look taller now. I laughed. You mean skinnier? No, she said. Taller. Like you're not carrying her anymore. And just like that, it all clicked. I had carried her. Long before the affair. Long before the locks changed. Long before the door was left open just enough to hurt me. I carried her insecurities. Her guilt. Her boredom. Her need to be chased. I carried every silent treatment. Every sideways glance. Every moment she made me question if I was enough. And I'm not carrying any of it now. Because here's what I learned. People like her don't fall out of love. They fall out of usefulness. And the second you stop serving their image of themselves, they find someone else who will. She didn't leave because she didn't love me. She left because she couldn't love anyone she didn't control. And now she's alone. Not because no one wants her, but because no one will carry her the way I did. That's not a wound. That's a warning. To her. And to anyone who thinks they can step into someone's life, treat it like a costume, and walk away clean. You don't walk away clean. You walk away remembered. But not the way you hoped.